Hello everybody and welcome to part 6 of what if Izuku Midoriya had a twin sister, the long-anticipated return of this series. I hope you guys enjoy the video as always. If you do, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Next video will come if you guys reach, let's say, 63 likes. Why not? And yeah, all that said, please enjoy the video. The UA Sports Festival had come to an end, so the students had been given 3 days off to rest and recover. Each student could spend this time however they pleased. Izuku spent it doing some more muscle training while watching and rewatching the sports festival matches, writing down some new information he was getting after seeing himself fight from a different perspective. Himoto was waiting at a bar, drinking some apple juice as she waited for her friend to arrive.
Sorry I'm late. The club meeting ran later than I thought.
Yoi apologized as she arrived at the bar they were supposed to meet at.
Oh yeah, I forgot you had class today.
Himoto replied, laughing slightly to herself.
Wow, way to rub in that you didn't have class today.
Yoi said.
So why did you call to meet up? Can we just hang out without needing a reason?
Himoto asked.
Not from my experience. When you call, you usually want to talk about something.
Yoi claimed, with it feeling like a slight attack for Himoto.
I guess so. Sorry.
Himoto apologized. She wasn't always the best of friends, but at least her company was appreciated. Despite what her friend had said, the two went on to have quite the enjoyable day. A breath of fresh air for Himoto after all that training for the sports festival and the festival itself. These were supposed to be days of rest, but her brother was way too focused on moving forward with the training, watching the festival over and over to analyze everything he could. At some point in the day, Himoto even got recognized from the UA Sports Festival, surprising her and leading to a bit of a friendly teasing from Yoi. As all things do, their days of rest had to pass. Did you see the news? Izuku asked as both he and his sister waited for the train to arrive on their first day back at school.
Huh?
Himoto mumbled, turning her attention back from her phone, still processing the question.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that one hero could cause such a big scandal.
That's not what I'm talking about, Izuku denoted.
How do you expect me to know?
Himoto complained.
It's not like we have twin telepathy or anything like that. I mean, they talk about a lot of stuff on the news every day. You have to be more specific than that.
I mean about Iida's brother, Izuku clarified as the train arrived and both siblings got on it. Apparently he came across the new villain, the hero killer Stain.
Man, that must suck. Do you think he's alright?
Himoto asked, worried at how Iida's emotional state would be. The news said that he was in intensive care, so it could go either way, Izuku responded.
Poor Iida. He must be taking this real badly.
Himoto said, sadness invading her.
I can't imagine what I would do if something like that happened to you. That would be horrible.
A gloomy atmosphere invaded both of their minds as they started putting themselves in Iida's shoes. Luckily, this changed rather quickly as their conversation was interrupted by some of the passengers of the train who recognized Izuku and Himoto from the sports festival. Once they finally reached their station, the conversation topic had entirely changed because of that, shifting from a grim conversation to one about the events of the train.
Man, why did it have to be a rainy day today? I hate rainy days.
Himoto complained. Your powers are a lot weaker when it rains. It's totally normal, Izuku replied. Just as he said that, Iida zoomed by in his raincoat. Morning, you two, he said as he zoomed by. The two siblings looked at each other for a moment, remembering their talk from earlier and quickening their pace to keep up with the class rep, questioning why he was in such a rush. A UA student should be at least 10 minutes early, don't you think? Iida asked as a response as they arrived at the entrance. So, Iida, Midoriya started. If it's about my brother, you needn't be concerned. I'm sorry if I made you worry. Everything will be fine, Iida said as he removed his rain gear, giving his classmates a comforting smile that hid a lot of anger and sadness behind it.
Are you sure?
Himoto questioned, picking up on the sadness that his eyes were trying to hide. Quite so, Iida responded. We should get to class before the bell rings. He then started walking off before Himoto could press the issue further. Seeing him leave, Izuku and Himoto headed to their classroom as well. When they entered the classroom, they found the class as lively as ever, with everyone talking about their experiences after the sports festival and being recognized. However, the lively atmosphere disappeared in an instant once the bell rang and Aizawa came in. Tsuyu noticed that he no longer had bandages, but Aizawa brushed that off, explaining that the day's lesson would be about hero informatics. The class started assuming the worst, expecting there to be a pop quiz or something of the sort. You'll be picking code names, Aizawa clarified, causing the class to erupt into cheering, which Aizawa quickly quelled. He went on to explain the details of the pro hero draft picks, showing the students the number of offers they each got. The students commented on the number slightly, giving their opinions. Once they had finished, Aizawa continued to explain the importance of the numbers, letting the students know about their coming internships. The students realized quickly that's why they were picking their names now. This may be temporary, but be serious about the names you pick, Aizawa started.
Or you'll have hell to pay later. What you pick today could be your code name for the rest of your life,
Midnight said, entering the room.
You better be careful, or you'll be stuck with something utterly indecent.
With her having made her entrance, Aizawa delegated the name-judging job to her and went to take a nap. The students then spent a while thinking, trying to decide on what names to pick. Both Midoriya's siblings had no idea what names to choose. When they were kids, they'd play games and decide on hero names for fun, but now those didn't seem to fit anymore. Still, as they were trying to come up with names, they suggested some for each other. Midoriya suggested a couple names like Pyra, Firefly, and Hot Breath to his sister. Ignored the last one, she told him to shut up. Not all the names were bad, but she wasn't really happy with them. Even with those suggestions, she had no idea in which direction to go with her name. Himoto suggested Big Green, among others, for her brother, but he didn't seem to really like her suggestions either. But they did cause Izuku to think more seriously about it, so he now had an idea in what direction to go in. But Himoto still had no idea at all. After 15 minutes, Midnight called the students up to start presenting their names. The first few were kinda strange, but after Tsuyu presented hers, things started getting on track. Himoto struggles to come up with a name ended when Tokoyami presented his. With the speed of a lightning bolt, she jolted down the name and went up to present it.
I think I'm gonna go with this,
Himoto said, unveiling her sign afterwards. It read,
Amaterasu. Any particular reason you chose that name?
Midnight asked.
It may be a bit presumptuous, but I thought if Tokoyami could be god of the moon, then maybe I could be goddess of the sun,
Himoto clarified.
Well, given your quirk, it's a good fit. Although the name may bring with it a lot of responsibility, given her importance.
Midnight argued.
I know, but I'm ready for the challenge,
Himoto remarked.
Good, then I say go for it.
Midnight agreed, approving the name. With her name chosen and approved, she returned to her seat. Seeing his sister shoot her shot, Izuku got up himself and chose the name Deku.
Really? Are you sure?
Midnight asked. Izuku nodded, explaining why he picked this name, so Midnight decided to approve it. Slowly, all those who didn't have a name came up with one, excluding Bakugo, who was forced to go by Katsuki. With the naming process complete, Aizawa reminded the students about the draft picks, telling them they had 2 days to decide, making the class worry. While everyone deliberated on whose agency to go to for their internship, Uraraka, Iida, and Todoroki decided on their picks rather quickly. Izuku had many options to choose from, so he was going crazy trying to find a way to decide. Once the day finished, he wanted to head home quickly to create a system to make it easier on himself, but as he reached the door, he found All Might there in a bizarre position. the great hero informed his student that he had received one more offer, and from his former teacher no less, although he seemed quite scared of him. Izuku couldn't pass up an opportunity to learn from the man who trained All Might himself, so although he had many offers from great agencies, he ended up putting Gran Torino's as his top pick. On the other hand, his sister was in the same boat he had been in a couple moments prior, so she couldn't really decide. It took her a couple more days of thinking, but thanks to talking it over with her brother, she gave in her choice, right at the deadline too. A couple more days passed and the internships began, with the students meeting at the train station. Aizawa reminded them to be on their best behavior and left them to their own devices, as they each had to go to different places. Himoto was worried about Iida, but she didn't have much of a connection to him. He and Izuku were friends, but although she could tell he was in pain, she felt it was not her place to preach to him. Instead, she let him be. She said goodbye to her friends and then went to catch her train with everyone else doing the same. After 45 minutes on a bullet train with another 10 minutes of walking on top of that, Izuku arrived at the place of his internship. On the way, he mumbled to himself, trying to figure out what person Gran Torino would be, considering how even now he managed to scare All Might. He was surprised once he reached the address as the building seemed pretty run down. It didn't seem like a hero agency at all. For a moment, Izuku wondered if he had the right place, but decided to double check before doing anything. While introducing himself, he opened the door to the building, finding a short man lying on a pile of red liquid, a broken plate next to him and some meaty bits coming out of him. "He's dead!" Izuku screamed frightened. "I'm alive," the man corrected in a soft tone of voice, scaring Izuku for a moment. The old man explained how he came to be in this situation, descending into talking nonsense. He even ended up calling Izuku Toshinori. Weirded out, Izuku grabbed his phone wanting to call All Might. "Fire off an attack. Show me how well you can use One for All. I want to know to what degree you can control it," the hero ordered, surprising Izuku. The man seemed to be a completely different person than he had been a few seconds ago. "This is a pretty nice costume. Put her on and come at me." Izuku looked at the old hero confused for a moment, stammering with his words. He didn't know what to say to him or how to react. "Who are you again?" the old man asked, allowing Izuku to make up his mind. He explained to the man his objective and turned to leave, thinking he wouldn't be of any use to his development. To Izuku's surprise, the man started bouncing around the room, landing right above the entrance, stopping Izuku from leaving. "It's time to show me what you can do, you newbie," he said. After that display, Midoriya complied, putting on his hero costume and getting ready to brawl. After a bunch of talking, he finally complied with his mentor's request, full cowling to 5% and rushing Gran Torino, his punch ready. "Really? You're gonna use such a boring attack?" Gran Torino taunted, easily evading the attack, bouncing around the room again, landing on Midoriya and sending him to the ground. "You got a handle on the quirk quite quickly. This is going to be a lot like training All Might then. But you admire him too much. It's putting shackles on you that are holding you back. If you really want to improve, as you said, then you have to break out of them," Gran Torino said, getting off of Izuku. Feeling somewhat hungry, he left to get some food, leaving Izuku there, wondering what the man meant, contemplating everything he had said. After a while of thinking, Izuku finally figured out what the old hero was talking about. He may have been using One for All properly, but he was creating a lot of excess movements and announcing himself way too much with his attacks. It was a strategy that worked well for All Might, as he had speed on his side, but not for Izuku currently. What the hero had said led Midoriya to realize. "You break out of those shackles yet?" Gran Torino asked once he returned, wanting to start another training session. What he found was Izuku mumbling to himself frantically while writing down notes in his notebook. "I'm working on it," Izuku responded. He hadn't even turned his head away to respond. Seeing how he reacted, Gran Torino left some bags filled with groceries on the floor and rushed at Izuku. Izuku barely had time to react, so it was hit in the back a couple times, bringing him to the center of the room. "You aren't gonna figure this out by hitting the books, kid. You have to show me what you've got," Gran Torino announced, rushing at Izuku again. Midori at least managed to block that blow, full cowling once more in order to attack. He used the information he had written down and accumulated, trying to hit Gran Torino multiple times, but all of them failed. Predictable. Utter nonsense. There's no way you're beating any evildoers like this, Gran Torino said, evading attack after attack. The sparring session managed to last a couple of hours, only ending because Izuku collapsed from exhaustion. After that, Gran Torino decided to call it a day, seeing a slight improvement in the boy. Over the next few days of the internship, Izuku kept training with Gran Torino, fighting over and over again, so much that it made him puke. This was all for a good cause, to develop Izuku's own unique fighting style. He was aiming for something effective that would use all of his body in a fight. This way, if he were forced to sacrifice his arm for a full-powered smash, he'd still be able to continue fighting. It also served to make him more unpredictable, as he could attack with almost any part of his body. 3 days after the internship started, Izuku's new fighting style was starting to take shape. Gran Torino could see exactly how well it was going, realizing that him being Izuku's sparring partner was starting to be more detrimental than beneficial. Considering all the options, he decided to move them to the next prefecture over to a city with a pretty high crime rate. There, he could practice against a variety of different people to better himself further. They were going there by bullet train, and to do so, they had to pass through Hosu, which led to Izuku sending Iida a text, one which he didn't respond to. Izuku found it strange, but there wasn't really anything he could do. As they were passing through Hosu City, their train suddenly stopped with the hero bursting through the wall. Right after, Inomo entered the train after him. Doing his duty as a hero, Gran Torino engaged the villain, pushing him back into the city, ordering Izuku to stay put. Izuku looked out the hole created in the train, seeing the city on fire. After seeing that Nomu and what was happening to the city, Izuku couldn't allow himself to stay put, so he ran out of the hole, running towards the city. He started putting the pieces together in his head, trying to come up with a plan as he ran against a crowd when he encountered Manuel, who was also looking for Iida. There were 2 more Nomu there, worrying Midoriya, but he obeyed the heroes and ran away after piecing the puzzle together. Instead of getting to safety like he was supposed to, he started searching for Iida through the back alleys, as he deduced that he'd probably be searching for Stain. Unbeknownst to the heroes, earlier in the day, deep within the shadows of society, in a hidden bar, the hero killer and the head of the League of Villains met. Towards the beginning of the meeting, Stain grew to dislike Shigaraki, deeming him as a personification of the things he hated. But after testing the man-child, he was able to see sprouting seeds of conviction within him. Curious about how he'd turn out, Stain decided to join his little club, at least for the time being. But before actually committing to anything, he wanted to finish his work in Hosu City, so he requested that League take him back there. They obliged, but after he left to finish his work in the city, Shigaraki, wanting to crush Stain's pride and dignity, unleashed 3 Nomu on the city. This came as a helpful, if not annoying distraction for Stain, as most heroes were occupied with it to notice him taking out Native. Unlucky for the hero killer, a boy wearing white armor spotted him and went after him, intent on taking him out with a powerful kick. What the boy didn't know is how developed Stain's reflexes and speed were. Stain delayed his skill, slashing at Iida, knocking his helmet off in the process. Realizing the armored man was but a boy, Stain issued a warning, telling him to flee. But Iida started mouthing off about Stain killing his brother. This branded Iida as Stain's prey. In anger, Iida attacked Stain once again, trying to hit him with an uppercut kick, but Stain evaded, jumping into the air, stabbing the boy with his pointy shoes. He put his other leg on Iida's head, bringing the boy crashing into the ground. With the boy pinned, Stain pulled his sword and stabbed him in the arm, lifting the blade up and licking the blood off of it, locking Iida in place. Even as his fate drew nearer, Iida still chose to curse Stain, promising to kill him. The hero killer lifted his blade, intent on killing the boy. But just before he could deliver the finishing blow, Izuku ran it at high speeds, delivering a powerful kick to Stain's side, sending him tumbling back. Midoriya, but why? Iida asked. The boy wasn't supposed to be in the city. It's as if he had just manifested out of thin air. After explaining how he'd located his classmates, Izuku started collecting information on the situation, all while Iida tried to get him to flee, and Stain tried to discourage him from fighting. Playing it smart, Izuku used his phone broadcasting his location to everyone he could, taking a battle stance right after. No! I told you to run! This is none of your business! Iida shouted from the top of his lungs, not wanting to see his friend die because of his stupidity. It's like All Might said, helping others when they don't ask for it is the essence of being a hero, Izuku said, causing a sinister smile to form on Stain's face. After powering up, Izuku charged at the hero killer, with him swinging his sword in retaliation. Izuku, wanting to evade the blade, went in low, with the hero killer pulling out a knife. Midoriya then slid under Stain's legs. Knowing an attack was coming from behind, Stain turned around, swinging his sword. But Izuku had jumped again, landing on a wall and bouncing off it, hitting Stain on the back of his head, sending him down to the ground. Izuku landed, getting back up to look at his opponent and continue fighting, but before he could make another move, his movements were stopped. Stain had made a tiny cut, but it was enough to stop the young hero from moving. The hero killer slowly got up, going over everything Midori had done right, deeming him a proper hero. Still, he had work to do. He once again brandished his sword and got ready to kill Iida. But before he could, a wall of ice and fire showed up in his path, causing him to retreat. Midoriya, you need to be more specific in this kind of situation. You're lucky your sister filled us in. Otherwise, I'd be late, Todoroki announced. After ascertaining the information he needed from Midoriya, Todoroki used his ice to put everyone he needed to protect behind him, engaging with the hero killer after. A battle ensued between Todoroki and Stain, with the young student barely managing to hold the hero killer at bay. As the battle raged on, Stain's higher speed and combat experience allowed him to get the upper hand. Lucky for Todoroki, the time limit ran out on the villain's quirk, so Midoriya was able to swoop in and rescue his classmate, tackling the hero killer into the ground. The battle continued on with the two students fighting against the hero killer. Things were so dire that without realizing, Midoriya once again upped his output to 8%. It was enough of a surprise for the hero killer that it allowed Izuku to land a couple hits, but in the end, he was paralyzed again. Just as Izuku went down, Iida got back up, shattering the hero killer's blade with a powerful kick. Todoroki and Iida combined managed to keep Stain distracted for a few minutes more, allowing for Izuku to join the battle again. With the three students capable of battle once again, they managed to corner Stain into enough of a corner to deliver a final blow, sending him out of the fight indefinitely. With the situation somewhat resolved, the students found some nearby rope and tied the hero killer up. Luckily, excluding Iida, they had made it out of the fight with some very minor injuries. Once the group got together with some heroes in the main street, Inomu swept in, capturing Izuku. Luckily, Stain regained consciousness, licking off a piece of the monster's blood, paralyzing it. It crashed into the concrete, giving Stain the chance to kill it. Endeavor then showed up at the scene, causing Stain to turn his attention on the number 2 hero. But before he could engage in any way, his injuries did him in. Everyone was still taken to the hospital to get their injuries looked at and healed. Since Izuku and Todoroki had both sustained relatively minor injuries, they were allowed to resume their internships without much issue. Even Iida got to go back at some point. Gran Torino scolded Izuku after he returned, but he managed to fare well for himself. The hero realized that this experience would be beneficial for his students, so he didn't give him such a hard time. As Gran Torino had originally said, the two spent the rest of the internship fighting minor villains and punks in the city, allowing Izuku to develop further against different people with different fighting styles. By the end of the week, although Midoriya's work was far from over, the seeds of his new fighting style were already starting to bloom. Still, the internship came to an end and Izuku said goodbye to Gran Torino, thanking him for everything he had done for him. "Who are you again?" Gran Torino asked just before Izuku could leave. "I've told you like a million times, I'm Izuku Mido..." Izuku started, but he was interrupted by Gran Torino saying, "No, that's not right." Finally realizing what the hero wanted him to say, Izuku answered, "It's Deku. I'm Deku." With a smile on Gran Torino's face, both of them went their separate ways. A few days ago, towards the beginning of the internship, Himoto, after taking a 28-minute train ride, arrived at the place of her agency. She entered the normal-looking building, heading to talk to the receptionist, but before she could reach him, she was stopped by a girl with blue hair and curious eyes.
"Hey, you're a first-year student at UA, right? Right? What's your name? Are you here to do your internship? What's your quirk anyway?"
She asked, firing one question after another, before Himoto could really answer.
Yeah, I'm here to do my internship,"
Himoto answered, unsure how to really answer the girl, but she was trying to do it as best she could.
"I'm Himoto Midoriya, and yeah, I can breathe and control fire." "Really? Any type of fire? If you can control it, can you also create it out of thin air? Can you make objects with it? Can you use it to fly? And what are your limits with the quirk?"
Nejire asked.
"You have to forgive Hado. She's quite inquisitive and enthusiastic, but she's reliable when you need it,"
Ryuko said, coming into the lobby.
"You must be Midoriya. Welcome to the Ryukyu agency. Thanks for having me,"
Himoto said after meeting the hero.
"It's no issue at all. You were quite impressive in the sports festival. And quite honestly, I think you have a lot of potential. So, I'd like to see what you're capable of,"
Ryuko explained, with them going off into the agency. There, Ryuko explained how the internship would go for the young girl. Since she didn't have a hero license, she wouldn't be dealing with any significant threats, but she would be allowed to help out in smaller ways. The plan was to pair her up with different members of the agency at different times, with her getting some experience and seeing how hero work is usually like. Since most of the first day was already over by this point, Himoto learned more from the technical side, seeing how everything worked more or less behind the scenes. She talked to a lot of people who were in charge of informing the heroes when they got a request and learned quite a lot. On the second day, Himoto tagged along with one of Ryuko's sidekicks, learning how patrols work and helping out slightly. They got into two minor kerfuffles where Himoto made sure to keep the civilians safe, guiding them out of the way. Aside from that, they helped people with directions, cleaned up a bit, and did other stuff of the sort. On the third day of the internship, Himoto had Nejire as her partner. This meant that the girl was asked question after question. It annoyed Himoto slightly, but she already knew how this felt, considering Izuku was her brother. Every time she improved with her quirk, she'd be barraged by a million questions. Things got better as the day went on, as Nejire started running out of questions. The two UA students patrolled the area a couple times, intervening in minor disagreements and helping out where they could. They even encountered a small robbery as they went on.
"Stay here, I'll take care of this,"
Nejire ordered, engaging with the three villains who had robbed a convenience store. She instantly defeated one of them, hitting him with one of her blasts. But when she went to fire another, she found the blast blocked by the man's quirk. The blast was redirected at her, but she evaded. Annoyed that her own attack was being used against her, she charged at them, attacking repeatedly. This gave the third villain a chance to attack her from the back, but Himoto stopped him, creating a small wall of fire in his way, which he then directed at the man, hitting him back.
Hey! You're not allowed to fight with villains,"
Nejire complained, turning around to deal with the third villain.
Sorry, but he was about to get you from the back, so I thought I should help,
Himoto explained. Nejire's attention was then focused on the first villain with the shield, who had thrown a rock at her. Himoto had focused too much on Nejire, letting the second villain who had gotten back up getting close. He manifested some claws on his hands, trying to slash at Himoto, forcing her to evade. She breathed in to attack with her fire, but before she could unleash it, she was forced back again and again. The villain in front of her was way too quick for her to gain distance and attack, so all she could do was dodge. Nejire ended up overpowering the first villain's shield, taking him down. Once he was defeated, she helped Himoto out quickly, just before she could execute a counter she had come up with. After the fight ended, Nejire let the police know about the villains and both heroes were forced to wait for them.
Hey, why do you only use your fire to fight from a distance? I mean, don't you know that some enemies won't let you get away so far to attack?
Nejire asked as they waited.
Well, I kind of need a bit of space to unleash anything, actually. Otherwise, I'm going to have a bit of an issue because I burnt myself.
Himoto explained.
But if you can control fire, why not just make it hover above your hands or something, you know? Like fire fists in those old video games.
Nejire asked, tilting her head in confusion. Himoto was left without an answer. Instead, she just looked at her hand, thinking over the possibility. She continued on for a bit longer, returning to the agency after with their duties done for the day. They were finally allowed to relax a little. Himoto looked at her phone, looking over some messages and pins she got on social media. As she responded to some of them, she got a message from her brother in the 1A group chat. There was no real message, just a location. She said through the chat that if Izuku were to send something like that without giving any context, then he had to be in some sort of trouble. Realizing that, she tried calling him but couldn't get through. It was only a couple hours later that she learned he had ended up in the hospital fighting some villain, but he wasn't allowed to share the details. The next day, Himoto finally got to learn from Ryukyu firsthand. She followed her around, observing everything she did. She engaged with 5 villains throughout the day, allowing Himoto to see the hero's battle awareness firsthand. Sadly, the hero being quite busy, most of the day was actually spent with one of her sidekicks. With her having experienced the battlefield and having been on actual patrols, Himoto spent most of the remaining internship training the agency's gym. She was still taking into the field every now and again, but most of the time was spent training her. Here, she learned to do what Nejire suggested, making fire-enhanced fists that she could use to make her punches more dangerous, along with improving her awareness of her surroundings and the battle itself. The week-long internship sadly came to an end, and so, after thanking everyone and saying goodbye, Himoto returned home, a better hero than she had been before going. She couldn't wait to talk to her brother about what she learned and experienced. And you've reached the end of the video. Since you did, why don't you hit that like or subscribe? If we reach 63 likes, I will release the next part of this series next week, which will probably deal with the final exam arc. If you enjoy the female voices in this video, especially Himoto's, why not check out the voice actor's channel, Instagram, which is in the description below. I encourage you to do so as she does pretty cool art. And yeah, that said, please leave a comment saying what you would like Himoto to do, or how do you think she can further improve her powers besides just these battle fists like the blazing smash and whatnot. I would like to know your opinions, and they might give me ideas. All that said, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!